Are you feeling any better?
A little bit.
Guess what?
What?
Your grandfather's here.
Mom, can't you tell him I'm sick?
You are sick. That's why he's here.
But he'll grab my cheek. I hate it when he does that.
Maybe he won't.
Hey! How's the sickie?
Stop that!
I brought you a special present.
Oh, what is it?
Go on, open it up.
A book?
Yes, when I was your age, television was called books. Now, this is a very special present, for it was the book that my father read to me when I was sick, and I read to your father. And now, I'm gonna read it to you.
Does it have any sports in it?
Oh, are you kidding? There's fencing, mud wrestling, foxy boxing, and such and such.
Well, it sounds pretty all right to me. I'll give it a try. I'll try not to fall asleep.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for your vote of confidence. It's overwhelming. All right. But firstly, just one more thing. Did you kill your father?
Granddad?
Oh.
That's the other role you play.
No, I play the same character everywhere. All right, okay. The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern, Chapter 1. Buttercup lived on a small farm in the country of Florin. And I'm slowly gonna fade out my voice, and so I can listen to Caleb Garfinkel and this $5, get out of here.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Innes Lloyd 30th anniversary birthday special for the Princess Bride. Please keep those woos and oohs going for your very inconceivable host, Mr. Rob
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome down to the Butterfly Club. How y'all doing? Welcome along to our 30th anniversary birthday show for the Princess Bride. Are there any Princess Bride fans in the audience? Thank heavens for that. Otherwise, it would have been a long hour. Please, could I get a bigger applause for my co-host and cohort in comedy crime, David Innes! On light, sound, and voice of mother, Jacqueline and plucking away like no man's business, Caleb Garfinkel! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to celebrate the 30th birthday of The Princess Bride, which was a novel and then adapted into a screenplay by William Goldman. It was produced by Norman Lear and directed by the great Rob Reiner.
And of course, when we talk about The Princess Bride, we're not talking about The Princess Bride game, The Princess Bride game, and King's Quest VII, The Princeless Bride game. No. We're certainly not talking about the Princess Bride musical as owned by Disney. What can you say about the Disney musical there?
We can't really say much because they bought the rights to it 5 years ago, and that's the only thing that's been appearing on the website for the last 5 years. Fuck you, Disney.
Yeah, well, they're clearly using all the Princess Bride money for Star Wars. That's exactly where it's gone. We're certainly not talking about the lesser-known direct-to-video Princess Bride 2 Electric Boogaloo. Which is totally a real film.
It's inconceivable. Again.
And of course, it had a lesser budget, so they weren't able to get the same cast over again. But tell us about the plot line, Rob.
Oh, this plot is kicking it, all right? Wesley and Buttercup have fallen out of love. Yeah. And because Buttercup wants to go to college, martial arts college. And she wants to become a doctor, a kung fu doctor. And she wants to do it without a man leading her the way. So as you can see, we've got an all-star C-grade cast of Richard Greco from Wise Guy is there as Wesley. We've also got Cynthia Rothrock as Buttercup, and right there is Fred Gwynn as Physic. It was the last role he ever played on screen, and he, for some reason, did it in his Herman Munster outfit, makeup. So he died on set. It was a sad set.
It's very, very sad. But also, we're not talking about the bride either, yes, that one. And we're certainly not talking about the Princess Bridge. We're not talking about the Princess Highway. Right. We're not talking about Princess, that early terrible Macromedia Flash animation by Matt Stone and Trey Parker. Anyone remember that? That's probably for the best.
That's why there's not going to be an anniversary show about that.
No, there we go. And we're certainly not talking about the Runaway Bride, the Runaway Bride, or the Runaway Bride.
Do not clap that abomination. All right.
Oh, I had a giant spider in it.
Everything David Tennant did was brilliant on Doctor Who. So yes, we are doing a show about The Princess Bride, and to do a show about this, celebrating such an amazing film, we need to be experts in the field of that. So, that wasn't a laughing line. All right, so yes, we are going to give you our credentials, and so you know that you're in safe hands for the next hour. So my credentials with The Princess Bride, I first saw it in high school when I was in year 7. My English teacher presented it to me in the class. The rest of the class from country New South Wales went, "Oi, where's the boobs at?" And I went, "This is the greatest film in the history of the universe." So I pretty much watch it every year, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Now, Innes. This is the 4th show that we've done, and you've been the Betty to my Mr. Kelly.
Yes,
you've been the Nanny Frine to my Mr. Sheffield.
Oh,
okay? You haven't researched any of the films we've done before, Ghostbusters, Labyrinth, or Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, okay? So I'm trusting you that you actually did your research and watched The Princess Bride. Am I right?
I mean, how could you not? I mean, it is a very iconic film.
Oh, good.
I mean, everyone has to have seen it. I mean, it's got Anne Hathaway in it. It's got Julie Andrews, where Anne is the dorky high school kid who finds out she's a royalty member of the small...
That's The Princess Diaries.
Oh, isn't that really depressing mid-90s film with Leonardo DiCaprio where he has to prostitute himself and sell heroin and whatnot?
No, that's The Basketball Diaries.
I thought that was that movie based on the series of kids' books about the kid who doesn't like middle school.
No, that's Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Oh. Well, I thought that was that film with Robert Redford, but also like Popeye's stroke morbidly obese friend who they go out in a blaze of glory and hamburgers.
What? Now you're combining films. You're combining Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with Wimpy from Popeye. Did you even do any research on this?
I may have been very drunk.
Oh. All right, okay, now Caleb, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you back here. Caleb joined us for our Labyrinth show. Round of applause for Caleb right there. Now, we booked you far in advance for this. We got you onto this really, really early.
I think the day of the Labyrinth show.
Yeah, the Labyrinth show. About 16 months of preparation for this. And I trust you because of your professionalism, commitment, and stuff like this, unlike some people I know. So, tell us about your credentials with The Princess Bride.
I didn't watch it.
What?
I've been busy.
We've been watching Butch Cassidy and Wimpy for the entire time.
What, together and you didn't invite me?
It's very compelling.
It is.
What do you give it out of 5 stars?
At least a 4.5.
Oh, wow. What do you give it?
A hamburger.
Okay, so what are your credentials connected with The Princess Bride?
Well, my only connections, I'm a big Mark Knopfler fan who wrote all the music. Mark Knopfler was one of my favourite guitarists growing up and still is. Out of all the guitarists in like the 70s, 80s kind of period, he's very influential and quite melodic in his playing. He's very often pumping out a lot of tasty licks.
Ooh.
And just generally is quite a player that's been very influential to me. So the soundtrack's quite a lot of fun.
Well, there you go.
And it's a fun fact for immature fans, his name sounds like Nobler.
It works very well if you want to say tasty licks. So, we've given our credentials on stage, and now we need to find out your credentials related to The Princess Bride. We've got 3 levels, from the lowest to the highest, obviously. So let's go with the lowest at the moment. This is the physic level, all right? Sweet, charming, but a little thick, okay? You've never seen The Princess Bride. You don't really know what The Princess Bride is. You're just walking down on a Sunday afternoon saying, thank God it isn't raining. Let's go in and see a show. What the hell is this? So if you're at that level, no idea about the Princess Bride, you're going to do the physic line. Anybody want a peanut? 1, 2, 3.
Anybody want a peanut?
I feel very alone up here. All right, next level is the next level up. That's the Indigo Montoya level, okay? So you've seen it a couple of times, but you're far too busy caught up in the revenge business to actually see the film and know it off by heart. So you're going to call out for me right now. There's not a lot of money in revenge. There's not a lot of money in revenge. Call that out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. thank you for the accent, you racists. All right. And finally, we've got the Vicini level. That's the expert level, the dazzling intellect level of knowledge of The Princess Bride. You know every line, every quote, every bit of knowledge. You get so annoyed with anyone paraphrasing or not.
You cosplay to the show.
What's that?
You cosplay to the show.
It's a sad state of affairs. I've lived in Melbourne so long, a guy completely in black, I just go, it's just another day in Melbourne. All right, so if you're at that level of commitment with The Princess Bride, you know it so well, you're going to call out inconceivable on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Inconceivable!
Wow, okay.
You're going to be so disappointed.
So what happens next, Mr. Innes?
Well, you know, we've done a call and response thing, but for all I know, the audience could be liars. So we, of course, we're going to bring in our usual Innes Lloyd competition, but this one's a little bit different from usual. It is called the Florin Family Feud. Ooh. Now, the way this works is that we'll be asking for 3 volunteers to come and test their knowledge on various quotes. I have, based on research from the interwebs, I have the top 10 quotes, and we've also got some clues as to who they belong to, and you will need to guess one at a time which quotes you think belong in the top 10. If you get one of those top 10 quotes, you will get that number of points. So, for instance, if you get the number 1 quote, you get 1 point. If you get the number 10 quote, you get 10 points. And we've got a dazzling array of prizes. Or here, there is the original novel from which it was based from. We also have the Kerry Elway's biography for As You Wish. Very, very rare and very hard to find.
And as always, the hipsters have taken over the world. The Princess Bride fucking colouring in book.
I'm managing my mental health.
You're doing really well. I'm 40. I only went out of the lines twice.
But seriously, somebody employ me. So we'll need Mr. Rob Lloyd, if we can get 3 volunteers who'd be
3
keen.
volunteers, hands up, who'd like to get involved, who'd like it. 1, 2, come on up. 3, come on up. Oh, we've got, round of applause. Come on up. Oh, brilliant. Excellent stuff. All right, okay, and your name is?
Claire.
Correct? Your name is? Yes. Guess. I know your name, but I'm trying to give the illusion that
Thank
I
you,
don't know the
Guess.
entire audience. Pratap, thank you very much. I read your mind. Ooh, like John Edwards. And you are, of course? Eck. Congratulations. That's brilliant. All right.
So what's going to happen is I'm going to go one at a time and you'll need to tell me a quote and we'll determine if it is in the top 10 and whether or not you get the points. We're going to start with Claire at the end. Claire, would you like to give us a quote possibly from there? We have some clues. There was quotes from Inigo Montoya up there, the Vizzini, Wesley, Clergyman, Vizzini, Miracle Max, Wesley, Man in Black, and the Grandfather and Humperdinck. Which one would you like to guess and why? Which one? Give us a quote and we'll see if it's up there.
I'm going to take the easiest one.
Please do.
Sorry.
That's my dating life. What would you like to suggest, Claire?
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare.
Give a round of applause for lovely accent work there. Jacqueline Vukasinovich, is that quote on the board? Yeah! 1 point. 1 point on the board for Claire. Pratap, would you like to guess a quote up on the board?
I'll go with Man in Black.
Oh, yes, and what does he say?
He says, there are very few perfect breasts in this world. It would be a pity to damage yours.
Is it up on there? I'm afraid not. It does not.
No, it's not in the top 10, but it's my number 1 pickup line.
So often the way. Eck, would you like to guess a quote in the top that could be in the top 10?
Let's just go Vicini.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you?
Inconceivable.
Let's see, is Inconceivable in the top 10? Number 2! Number 2, so 2 points. 2 points, yeah. We're going to head back over to Claire. Claire, would you like to give us a quote, what you might think is in the top 10?
You realise you are actually asking us to have memorised the entire script.
Yes.
That's a really good quote, and you got it spot on.
Yeah, that was the actors. But
Yes.
something.
I'm happy to take parts of quotes.
Yeah, Wesley says, "Of course, I'll come back. This is true love." Just as he's about to leave, he says something like, "This is true love."
Is there As There's True Love? Is it up on the board? I'm afraid it isn't. Pratap, would you like to go with another quote up on there? So we've still got ones from Wesley, Clergyman, Vizzini, Miracle Max, Man in Black, Humperdinck, and Grandfather.
I'll go with Vizzini.
Yeah, which one would you like?
Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
Let's go and see. Is it up on the board? Yes, there it is. 5 points.
Never get into a war. They're never going to land battle in Asia.
Okay. And Ek, would you like to have a go at a quote? So we've still got ones from Miracle Max. We've got ones from The Clergyman. We've got ones from Wesley. Which one do you think?
As you wish.
Let's go and see. It's As You Wish up on the board.
Yeah!
So
And how does he say it going down the hill? Oh, my sweet Wesley.
now we've got a tie here. So we currently we got Pratap and Ek are both on 5 points at the moment. Claire is on 1. So we'll say goodbye to Claire. Thank you very much for participating, Claire. Thank you very much. So this one, we'll see what points we get for Pratap. You would like to go with another quote for us?
Miracle Max. Miracle Max.
I'll go with Miracle Max.
Yes,
Well, which one do you think it is?
Do you think, when they're about to leave, he says, have fun storming the castle?
Is Have Fun Storming the Castle up on the board?
Yes! Have fun storming the castle.
All right, so you need just another 7 points to beat. X, so would you like to suggest, was there another quote that you would like to say up on the board?
Are we at X doing it?
X up to choosing a quote.
Let's go the clergyman.
Oh, which one was the clergyman? What do you think?
Marriage.
It's marriage on the clergyman.
Brings
Us together tonight.
It is indeed on 9 points. Well done. Unfortunately, that's all we'd have time for on Foreign Family Food, but the end of that round on 11 points is Pratap. So give it a round of applause. On second place, Ek. Give Ek a big round of applause. And thank you for giving us a wonderful time. Please give Claire a big round of applause there. So thank you. So as we escort Ek down the OH&S Hazard stairs there, I'm going to ask Rob to offer or direct Pratap into the prizes. Which of those 3 prizes?
Would you like the Princess Bride, or the Princess Bride?
As you wish. Yeah, very good. Give her a round of applause.
Wonderful stuff right there. What's up now, Miss Dennis?
We are now time to look at some pre-production.
Pre-production. Ladies and gentlemen, William Goldman wrote the novel The Princess Bride in 1973 and penned the screenplay. Now, in an interview that he did with Entertainment Weekly, he said he had 2 daughters, 1, 7, and 4 at the time, and he said to them, I'll write you a story. What do you want it to be about? One of the daughters said about a princess, and the other one said about a bride. And he said, well, that's the title, and he wrote his story. Thank heavens that they weren't cheeky smartasses and gave him 2 completely different words that wouldn't make any sense whatsoever, such as
Ham cube.
or incubator forest.
Yeah. Although I don't know if that cover's very child-friendly.
It was the 70s, all right.
The Amazing Adventures of Boobs Mackenzie over there.
And how? Now, there had been many attempts to turn The Princess Bride from a novel into a film, and most of them all failed. It all started in 1973 when 20th Century Fox paid William Goldman $500,000 for the film rights and to do the screenplay. Now, the director lined up was Richard Lester, right here, who was the fill-in director for Superman 2. There he is, right there. Now, it was getting closer and closer to production, but right before they started filming, the head of production at Fox was fired, and the project was put on hiatus. At another point, people like Robert Redford was involved, Norman Jewison, John Borman. There was going to be a version with Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Physic. Early in the 80s, Christopher Reeve was interested in playing Wesley, but that never happened. Eventually, Goldman decided he'd buy the rights back with his own money, and eventually he got in touch, Rob Reiner got in touch with him right there. Now, Rob Reiner was on a high after having such amazing hits with the film The Sure Thing and also This is Spinal Tap. And he'd loved the film since it was given to him by his dad, Carl Reiner. He read it all the time when he was on set of All in the Family. He just adored the book so much. And pretty much he went into 20th Century Fox and they said, you're a successful commodity now, you can make whatever film you want. And he said, The Princess Bride. He had a great working relationship with William Goldman. They met up and there's just a lot of interviews. They talk back and forth in such a glowing, gushing fashion. They met each other at Goldman's New York apartment one time and they started just going through what should be done and shouldn't be done in the film. At one point, Goldman left just to go in the kitchen to bring out some drinks and he came back in and he said, I think what you're doing is great, keep on going with it. And for Rob Reiner, someone who he idolized for most of his life, to have him say what you're doing is great was a beautiful thing. And that's how we get to the pre-production stage of The Princess Bride. Now, what's coming up next?
And now it's time to take a break with the wonderful tunes of Mr. Caleb Garfinkel.
Round of applause.
Caleb Garfinkel is available to steal your girlfriend at the next party you go to. And of course that was money for nothing, checks for free.
What? No, that was not money for
Oh, okay. Well, which part of the film is that from?
That's called the Florin Dance, which is played at the first time we see the castle, where Humperdinck is from. It goes through a marketplace with everyone dancing and selling food and stuff like that, where Buttercup is introduced to the people of Florin for the first time. It's a beautiful moment. Caleb Garfinkel, round of applause right there. What do we got next?
It's now time for production.
Production. Let's look at the actual filming process of The Princess Bride. Now, filming was done in various locations across Great Britain and Ireland. Some closest include Carl Wark in Sheffield in England, also Larkkill where the Battle of Wits scene happened, and also the Cliffs of Moher.
Is that the traditional Irish pronunciation, is it?
Where the Cliffs of Insanity were filmed. Now, Goldman spent months researching the 17th century sword fight manuals to craft the Wesley and Inigo dialogue for the duel. And all the references that they make in that specific section are relating to specific moves and styles from 17th century fencing. So funny and also accurate. Our type of comedy, am I right?
Well, at least one of them.
If we could do both at the same time, we'd be rich!
But alas.
So let's look at the fencing scene, the fencing battle, which is one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. Carrie Elwes, yeah, woo! Thank you, drunken person up the back. Woo!
I think that's just somewhat deflating.
Carrie Elwes and Mandy Patinkin learned to fence both left and right-handed, and they learned each other's steps as well. And they were, any free time during filming, they would be practicing their fight scene. And it was one of the last scenes that they shot in the film, so they had about 4 months practice time. So when they weren't shooting scenes, they were off rehearsing with themselves or with the fencing instructors, Bob Anderson and Peter Diamond, or as we like to call him, Peter
Diamond.
So yes, Mandy Patinkin said, I knew that my job was to become the world's greatest sword fighter. I trained for 2 months in New York and then went to London, and Carrie and I trained every day when we weren't shooting any particular scenes. There was only one stuntman in that entire moment when Carrie always is meant to do the flippy flip. That isn't actually him, I know. It's a kangaroo.
On a roller coaster.
Yes, called Jeff. It's here in the script, okay? So you got to believe it. Anyway, so let's talk about Andre the Giant, the great Andre the Giant. Round of applause for Andre the Giant. Now, he had undergone major back surgery before filming it happened, so despite his strength and his size, he couldn't do any of the stunts. So in the fight scene with Carrie Elwes, that wasn't actually him doing it. In the close-up scenes, they actually had set up a little rail and ramp system so that Carrie Elwes could just like maneuver around like this when they did the close-ups. And in the final scene when he catches Buttercup, that was actually Robin Wright on a series of suspended cables, which is pretty interesting.
And of course, Andre the Giant actually wasn't really a giant. He was just 2 people in pantomime horses stitched together.
with an afro on his head. So yeah. Now Andre the Giant, he could drink. He could drink a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. We found out that 3 bottles of cognac and 12 bottles of wine reportedly made him a little tipsy. I'm just reading that and I'm drunk. Now, Andre had an unconventional method of learning his lines. So when Rob Reiner wanted to audition him for the role, they met in a bar in Paris, and they went into the hotel to do their audition.
So often like my life.
Yes, you're here to audition.
Giants.
Let's see if you can get the part.
Cock reference. He remembers.
Family friendly. So Rob Reiner auditioned him for the role. He read a 3-page scene, but poor old Rob Reiner could not understand a word that Andre the Giant said. And he said to himself, oh my God, what am I going to do? He fits the role perfectly physically, but I can't understand him. So what Rob Reiner did was record all the physics lines and in the tone that he wanted Andre the Giant to deliver it, put it all on tape, send it to Andre the Giant, and he learned every single line and every single way of delivering the lines like that. And Rob Reiner says, at the end, Andre the Giant was pretty good. Wow, some harsh people in the audience. William Goldman was incredibly nervous on the set. This is the man who was nominated for an Oscar for Butch Cassidy and Wimpy Kid. No, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but his favorite story of all time was The Princess Bride. He just wanted it to work. He was invited to the set by Rob Reiner, and that was not the best choice because William Goldman was a nervous wreck the entire shoot. Sometimes when they were shooting scenes, they could hear this audible sounds, like feedback type thing in the background, and what it was William Goldman on the side just chanting and praying that everything goes well. And they went, could you cut that out? Just stop with the chanting and the praying. And there's one particular moment in the fire swamp where Robin Wright is set on fire because of the flames going off, and William Goldman was so shocked he went, oh my God, her dress is on fire, somebody save her! Despite the fact he wrote that into the script.
I think he just expected someone to come in playing the fire.
Just like a diminutive person in red lycra going, ooh, flamey, flame, flame.
Turns out one of the original drafts was Hervé Valenchez. The flames!
Now let's look at some of the stunts. One particular stunt in the fire swamp is when Wesley jumps into the quicksand head first. Now in the original script, it was just he was meant to jump in feet first, but Carrie always went, that's not really heroic, head first. Now that's heroic. Rob Reiner was a little bit suspicious about doing it that way because Carrie wanted to do it all himself. And you see they had a trapdoor set up with sand over the top. And he's meant to jump in head first. It opens up and he lands onto cushions and pillows and all that type of stuff. And he was a bit afraid that if it wasn't timed properly, Carrie would hit his head and possibly even break his neck.
But of course, he should have stayed with the advice that we all grew up with, which is you stay away from that trap door.
There's something down there.
Durner, quicksand.
So they tried it with a stuntman first. And he did it great. And then Carrie did it first go. And that's what's used in the film, which is pretty cool. Next up, we have, oh yes, that's right, I want to talk about, there was one particular injury that wasn't faked on the set of The Princess Bride. The moment where Wesley gets knocked on the head by Christopher Guest playing Carl Rogan. He was a little bit reticent about actually giving it any force, and that showed up on film. Christopher Guest, he's more of a, he's a comedy writer, not a fighter. And so he went to do it, and Carrie just went, look, Chris, just give me a little tap on the back of the head and that'll be fine. But Chris misjudged it a bit and actually hit him really quite hard and knocked Carrie Always out, who didn't wake up until a couple of hours later in the emergency room. And that's the take that's in the film. So, the 80s. Occupational health and safety didn't exist. So yes, now let's move on to the music. The music in the Princess Bride is done by, of course, the amazing Mark Knopfler, right there. Round of applause for Mark Knopfler. Could you pick an any more 80s picture?
Well, I had to actually do some work and I had to remove the Live Aid concert in the background at the various Rubik's Cubes all at his feet.
And the pink leg warmers.
Yeah, they're all interfering.
And all the VHS copies of Jane Fonda's aerobic workout
videos. And the Betamaxes.
Betamax. Now, Mark Knopfler did the entire soundtrack to it and he wrote the song Love Book Story, which is nominated for an Oscar at the 60th Academy Awards for Best Original Song. And it was up against some stiff competition.
So also nominated that year was Shakedown from Beverly Hills Cop 2. Had that go, Rob?
Shakedown, I'm in Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah. Or from Mannequin, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now was also nominated. How'd that go?
Shakedown, Kim Cattrall's a mannequin.
But of course, the song that did win the Academy Award that year was I've had the time of my life, and a debutante ball song every year. It's true. Oh, yeah. That's how it goes.
I didn't know that song was sung by John Howard. That's great. Let's look at the cast, ladies and gentlemen. The cast of The Princess Bride, who makes this film the special event that it is. Let's start off with our framing cast, who are at the start and the end. We've got the brilliant Peter Falk right there. And of course, Fred Savage! Now, Fred Savage was 10 at the time. This was before the Wonder Years and Molly. This was his first big film. It was his first international flight. He had to fly to Shepperton Studios. Now, by the time they were filming, it was the last bit of stuff that they had done, so most of the film was in the can. So all the crew were around having a great time, and Fred had a wonderful time. He didn't have that much experience acting at the time, so Rob Reiner sort of like guided him through with the technique of acting on film, which was really cool. But his best friend on the entire shoot was, of course, Peter Falk. They became great friends, and they stayed friends well after the shooting of the film, which is awesome.
And they spent many years later solving mysteries together.
That was a great series. Now, Fred Savage is in his mid-40s now. He has 3 kids, and he's shown the film to them, and they love looking at their dad as a kid, but they actually genuinely love the film on its own, which is pretty cool. Next up, we have... Yes. Oh. Yeah.
That's exactly the noise I'm making on the inside.
No drag of the 80s fashion there. Oh. Now, Carrie always was given the book as a child by his stepfather, and he he adored the book as a child, and he was so excited to actually be cast in the film. He actually suffered an injury on set that wasn't just being bopped on the head by the guy from Best in Show. One day out of takes, he got with Andre the Giant and got in Andre the Giant's AVT because he couldn't walk from set to where they were with their caravans and stuff. So he had his own little mover and shaker to drive around. And Carrie always got in and drove it and promptly got his foot stuck and broke his toe. Now, this was his big break in cinema, and this was the movie and the role he wanted to play. So he decided not to tell the director. He chose poorly. They got way into shooting until Rob Reiner, who was a bit of an experienced director, going, my bouncing, swashbuckling lead is hobbling like a three-legged dog. Maybe there's something wrong. Now, and Carrie was just afraid he was going to be replaced, but he wasn't, and they had to change the script around to accommodate for the fact that he couldn't walk properly. So yes, next up, our other lead is, of course, Robin Wright. Now, Robin Wright was the star of the NBC soap opera called Santa Barbara at the time. And again, this was her first big Hollywood movie that she made it in. And she was, as she says here, she was honoured but petrified. But once she got on location in the north of England, it was just the warmest family ever. They stayed in the same hotel, they ate together downstairs. Rob Reiner rented out a house and they'd all go over, they'd cook dinner, and someone would pull out a guitar, they'd all start singing. It was a real family environment, and we all just laughed so much. Oh, God.
And afterwards, they all drank the Kool-Aid.
Next up, we have the gorgeous Chris Sarandon right there. As Humperdinck. I prefer him in the very dated 80s vampire film Fright Night. It does not age well. We'll talk more about Chris Sarandon as we come along, but now we're going to move on to, that's right, Mandy Patinkin. Now, this is pretty sweet. He took this role incredibly seriously. As he said... where is he? Yes, he says right here, the moment I read the script, I loved the part of Inigo Montoya, he told Entertainment Weekly. That character just spoke to me profoundly. I lost my own father. He died at 53 years old with pancreatic cancer in 1972. I didn't think about it consciously, but I was there with the part on set, and I said, if I can get the six-fingered man, my father will come back. And I talked to my dad every day on set, and it was a really healing process. He's a very deep man. So yeah, Inigo Montoya as played by Mandy Patinkin. Next up, we had the great Christopher Guest as Carl Rogan, right there. Who worked with Rob Reiner, of course, on This Is Spinal Tap, and would go on to make Best in Show
and be customer #1 in Little Shop of Horrors.
Look that up on IMDb. Now let's move on to Andre the Giant. We talked a little bit about him, but Chris Sarandon was talking about Andre the Giant, who was 7 feet 4 inches and weighed 519 pounds.
Which is 235 kilos and 2.24 meters.
Now, how tall's that?
He would just be able to get under the Montague Street Bridge. Just.
Now, Chris Sarandon was talking about the fact that his kids, his 2 daughters, were really excited that he was on a film with a giant. So when they arrived on the set in Shepparton, they were so excited to meet Andre the Giant, and when they got in his presence, they both screamed out of pure terror. And so Sarandon had to take them away, take them outside. He came back to Andre the Giant and said, oh, look, I'm really sorry. I'm terribly sorry, that was disrespectful. They shouldn't have done that. And Andre the Giant said, no. They either come up to me or they run away. Now, someone who didn't run away was Robin Wright. She adored Andre the Giant. She said that he was the caretaker of the film. We're in the middle of the forest and it was raining. We're in our costumes. It was freaking cold and wet. And he would put his hands on my head. Literally, his hands would keep me warm from shivering. His hands covered her whole head. And the heat of his hands were like an electric blanket, which was really sweet and thoughtful, as she said. And sometimes when she couldn't get near to her coat, he would give his coat to her so he could wear. So that's really sweet.
Although, of course, production had to stop because she got lost in one of the sleeves.
Turns out she was in his top left pocket. Next up, we have the great Wallace Shawn as Vicini. Now, Shawn was actually just as dizzying intellect as Vicini. He had a history degree from Harvard. He studied philosophy and economics at Oxford. In fact, while he was filming on the set of The Princess Bride, on his off days, he would just pop over to Oxford and he'd do some guest lectures on British and American literature, as you do. But despite all this, he was actually incredibly nervous about filming because his agent, for some reason, thought that they would tell Wallace Shawn that he was the director's second choice. Their original choice was Danny DeVito.
What sort of passive-aggressive mum-like agent is this? Oh, I love you as a son, but you're not the best actor.
Wally, you're good, but you know Danny. So Wallace was so nervous that he would be fired after every single take. He wanted to get it right every single time. He was just there, and he actually said, you know, Danny is incredible, you know. Each scene I did, I pictured how I would have done it, and I knew I could never possibly have done it the way that he could have done it. But for me, there is only one Vicini, Wallace Shawn, right there. Finally, a bit more detail, we'll talk about Billy Crystal and Carol Kane as Miracle Max and Valerie! Love him. And
As played by a time-travelling Alan Alda.
Anyway, now, Billy Crystal brought 2 photos to the set for the makeup artist to get inspiration for Miracle Max. One was of Billy Crystal's grandmother, and one was of Casey Steingle, who was the baseball manager for the Yankees. Now, from the acting front, Billy Crystal kept everyone in stitches. As Carrie Elways wrote, for 3 days straight and 10 hours a day, Billy improvised 13th century era jokes all the way through. Never saying the same joke twice. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to see much of those because it was a family-friendly film, and what Billy Crystal was saying wasn't family-friendly. He was so funny that, in fact, Mandy Patinkin got a bruised rib from trying to hold in his laughter during a take. Carol Kane and Crystal met up before the filming to figure out the relationship between Valerie and Max. Carol Kane says we had a lot of fun together. We figured out our backstory, and they figured out that Valerie and and Max had been married for about 112 years. Now, Billy Crystal had a lot of experience at the time doing makeup because of his time on Saturday Night Live and on soap, but for Carol Kane, it was her first time ever in that amount of makeup, and she didn't cope very well because they had to get in at 2 a.m. in the morning to get the makeup and the process on like that. And so for them to get on screen and go, liar, get back, witch, it's amazing. I'm not a witch, I'm your wife. You think they'll make it? It'll be a miracle. Bye-bye. Jeez, it's good. So this is what Billy Crystal said about working on the set. He adored it. It's one of his favorite acting moments ever. Here, when you're working with a script by Bill Goldman, a brilliant group of actors and a bold director, it's the kind of movie that makes a simple, beautiful, funny story like this that makes it all worthwhile. Now, to finish off, we're going to talk about 2 late great actor-comedians as the impressive clergyman, Peter Cook, right there. And the late, great Mel Smith, right there as the albino. Yeah. 2 great comic actors in stellar cast that have made it last this long, 30 years, and it's going to be an incredible film that goes on forever. Now, what are we going to talk about next?
We are going to continue to be charmed by the highly strung Caleb Garfinkel.
Bravo!
That was the best version of Sultans of Swing I've ever heard.
That wasn't Sultans of
Well,
Swing.
where was that from?
That is, of course, the sword fight music that's played in that iconic scene between Inigo Montoya and, of course, the man in black, the Dread Pirate Roberts. Caleb Garfinkel, one more time. What's up next?
We better power on to some post-production reaction and legacy.
Post-production, all right. The film had its world premiere on September 18th at Toronto International Film Festival, and the film initially had a modest success at the box office, grossing $30.8 million in the US and Canada, and that's pretty good for its modest budget of $16 million. It was, of course, released here in Australia today, 30 years ago. The Princess Bride received critical acclaim, non-stop critical acclaim. Rotten Tomatoes, tomatoes? What the fuck? Tomatoes even.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes. Gave the film 97%, and that's certified
Fresh.
and it says that it's a delightfully postmodern fairy tale. The Princess Bride is deaf, intelligent, and mixes swashbuckling romance and comedy, and takes the age-old damsel in distress story and makes it
Fresh.
Now, two of the biggest reviewers at the time, Roger Ebert and the thorn in our side, Gene Siskel.
Siskel!
Actually really liked the film. And they gave it 2 thumbs up. And Roger Ebert actually said in his column in the Chicago Sun that it was one of the best films of 1987. So there we go. Nobody has actually said a bad word about The Princess Bride in 30 years. That's how remarkable this
Well,
film is.
actually, in order to do research, I did find the one person in the entire world who did not like and has criticised him. Of
Really?
course, yeah, right-wing crackpot Milo Yiannopoulos. Yes, that.
An audible, everyone went, fuck!
Yes, that slime-filled pus bag thought that it was overrated. So if you didn't have a reason to hate him now, there you go.
Certainly do.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the legacy. As I said, it wasn't a big box office success, but it's become a cult hit through VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray. In 2000, Total Film ran a poll for looking for the greatest comedy films of all time, and it came in at 38th, which is pretty cool. Even in 2011, they did a special live dramatic reading of The Princess Bride at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, directed by Jason Reitman, and it had Paul Rudd as Wesley, Mindy Kaling as Buttercup. It had Patton Oswalt as Vicini, Kevin Pollak as Miracle Max, Goran, what's his name pronounced?
Viznik.
Thank you very much. From ER, played the role of Inigo Montoya. Carrie Elways came back to play Humperdinck. Rob Reiner played the grandfather. And who could they get to play the grandson but Fred Savage? He actually came back. How awesome is that? So that's the legacy of Princess Bride. What are we going to do now?
I think it's another time. Caleb Garfinkel!
Garfinkel! Beautiful.
Definitely, I could hear it already. I know exactly what it is. Romeo, Juliet.
No.
No. What,
No,
which
it's
bit was that
it's
from?
happy ending, and she's right at the end of it while Buttercup jumps off the castle and is caught by Andre the Giant. Now, what are we up to now? So we're coming close to the end.
For one of our Innes Lloyd hours, we are hurtling towards. You may have noticed we've still got 2 prizes because it's time for an audience reenactment.
Yes!
Here at Innes.
Every show we get 2 audience members up to act out a famous scene. We're going to do the Princess Bride Battle of Wits scene. We need someone for Vicini and someone for the Dread Pirate Roberts to come up. Gee, I wonder who wants to play Vicini right here. Come on up, Dread. See where it says Vicini? Read that. No. So we're starting up here. We've got Mr. Innes will be doing all the narration in the style of what always we do here, Thomas the Tank Engine. Can we have someone for Vicini? Who thinks they're a dizzling? I'm never saying that word properly at all. Oh, you just...
Intellect.
Yeah, see, it's very hard to say that 2 words together. We need someone to read this out quickly because we're over time, and Caleb's got a show coming up next. Anyone would like to read? Anyone like to read? Come on up, sir. Come on up. All right, so we're going to be starting here. Innes, let's hear your best impression. Just play it like you want to. Bring out all the heart and soul of this. Okay, I'll just be here for moral support. Good luck, boys.
It was a beautiful morning on the island of Florin. Roberts approaches the table to take a seat. As he does, he pulls out a small vial and uncorks it in such a flurry of style. He sits and presents the vial to Vicini.
Inhale this, but do not touch.
Holy shit, this is... What I love about Innes Lloyd shows, the audience are funnier than the cast.
You do not smell what is called iocane powder. It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly in liquid, and is among one of the deadliest poisons known to man.
Roberts turns away from Vicini with the goblets and pours the poison in. He then turns back to face Vicini and places the goblets back on the table, one in front of each.
All right. Where is the poison? The battle of wits has begun. It ends when you decide and we both drink and find out who is right and who is dead.
A wry smile forms on Vicini's face, and he lets rip with an impressive and as yet to be expected arrogant monologue.
It is so simple. All I have to do is divine from what I know of you. Are you the sort of man who would put the poison in his own goblet or his enemy's? Now, a clever man would put the poison in his own goblet because he would know that only a great fool would reach for what he was given. I'm not a great fool, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you must have known that I was not a great fool, so you would have counted on it. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You've made your decision then.
Not remotely. Australia. And as everyone knows, Australia is entirely peopled with criminals, and criminals are used to having people not trust them, as you are not trusted by me. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you.
Roberts replies with a smirk on his face.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Oh, he can say the fucking line.
And you must have suspected I wouldn't have known the powder's origin, so I cannot clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You're just stalling now.
Roberts begins to bait Vicini, and he takes it hook, line, and sinker. Vicini explodes with thunderous sound of egotistical self-delusion.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you? You've beaten my giant, which means you're exceptionally strong, so you could have put the poison in your own goblet, trusting on your strength to save you. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you also best to my Spaniard, which means you must have studied, and in studying, you've learned that man is mortal, so you've put the poison as far from yourself as possible, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
Roberts is impressed with this performance, but keeps it all bottled in. Only he knows the true location of the poison, and he can see Vicini is losing his grip.
You're trying to trick me into giving something away. In what?
It has worked! You've given everything away. I know where the poison is.
Then make your choice.
I will, and I choose...
Suddenly, Vicini appears to be distracted by something behind the dread pirate Roberts' head.
What in the world could that be?
Vicini gestures up and away from the table. Roberts... I feel suddenly underperforming. Roberts, in an apparent moment of weakness, turns his head to look at whatever Vicini has spotted.
What? Where? I don't see anything.
As Robert continues to look, Vizzini switches the goblets around so he has Robert's and Roberts has his.
Well, I could have sworn I saw something. No matter.
As Roberts finally turns around to face Vizzini, he notices Vizzini smirking to himself.
What's so funny? I'll tell you in a minute. Let's drink. Me from my glass, and you from yours.
They drink. Roberts takes a slow and measured swig. Vizzini, grinning like a Cheshire cat, drinks horridly.
You guessed wrong.
With the most confident of grins, Roberts places his goblet down on the table and looks triumphantly at Vizzini. Vizzini, however, is completely outdoing Roberts on the confidence charts, as we're all about to witness.
You only think I guessed wrong. That's what's so funny. I switched glasses when your back was turned. You fool. You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is to never get involved in a land war in Asia. But only slightly less known is this. Never go against the Sicilian when death is on the line.
And with that, Vizzini stops and suddenly mid-laugh and promptly falls dead. The dread pirate Roberts has won the battle of wits and proceeds to take Buttercup away from danger, and soon he will reunite with their true love, the end.
You get to pick first, sir. Which would you like? And there you go. Round of applause for our volunteer. Wow. Thank you. Wow. Holy shit. That was awesome.
They always are.
Well, that brings us to an end of the show.
Well, I think I've got 7.5 seconds left to do what the segment that everyone has been waiting for.
You don't mean...
Yes, I do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Hat Facts. Hat Facts. Hat Facts. Hatty, hatty, Hat Facts. Facty, facty, Hat Facts. Hattity fact. Factity cat. Oh, Hat Facts. Hat Facts. Hat Facts. Hat Facts.
Hat Facts was filmed in front of a live studio. Hat.
We're going to start with number one, which is a trilby worn by the grandfather. Now, of course, the trilby name is derived from the stage adaptation of George de Moreau's 1894 novel of Trilby. It's a shorter brim than a fedora, and some usually lined, but according to James Lock & Co., they're not supposed to be, so that's a controversy for another day. But according to the Akubra factory, they do have an SPF rating of 50. We move next to the mitre, which is worn by the clergyman, which is derived from the Greek, meaning a headband or turban. It's a ceremonial headdress of bishops and abbots, Tony or otherwise. It's also mentioned in Homer's Iliad as a form of headband for women. It has an SPF rating of minus 50 because when you wear it, the light of the Almighty will shine and burn through your skull. We come up next with the smoking cap worn by gentlemen and Dumbledore. Smoking caps have an SPF of 15, mainly because it's mainly for smoking and very less for capping. Number 4, the beaded cap or headdress. This is an early form of what we would later know as a fascinator, which many of you know has evolved into an explosion of feathery bullshit worn by at jaunty angles at various horse races. It has an SPF rating of 0 because it's merely decorative. And then finally you have the bandana or kerchief, which is because of how well it covers the head. It does have an SPF rating of 50, but unfortunately, according to the rules of hats, it's actually not a hat. What? So we can't. Thank you. We cannot be considered. But that is, of course, the end of your Hat Facts. We're going to bring up the lyrics, and once again, if you can sing along with me, as a Hat Facts, Hatty, hatty, Hat Facts, Fact, Hat Facts, Hattity fact. Factity hat. Oh, Hat Facts. Hat Facts. Hat Facts. Hat Facts.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good hat. Hat! So that brings us to the end of our 30th anniversary Princess Bride show. Give us a round of applause! What happens now, Mr. Innes?
We get some good time to plug. We'll start with, now, Mr. Caleb Garfinkel, you have a show in approximately 7 seconds after this, I sure could. Would you like to tell us more about it?
I have a show in like 28 minutes right here. It's called Great Southern Band. It's a bit of a love story, and I romp through a whole lot of Australian songs, pub songs, minus the pub. Start looking at the stories behind Australian music with 2 other great singers. So I'm here, I'm doing some acting and some joke stuff and some singing. So I'd really like you to be here on a closing night. So go and get a drink and a ticket and come back up. 7 o'clock right here. Thanks.
And what are we doing next? We're not riding off into the sunset on some horses. What are we doing next?
Well, yes, it might be the end of us this year, but we'll be back on February, because it's the 30th anniversary of Red Dwarf!
That sci-fi comedy classic is celebrating 30 years, and we'll be back downstairs at 8:30 on February 15th to celebrate all the...
Any Red Dwarf fans in the audience? Ah, yes, smackheads. We'll look forward to seeing you then.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming along and enjoying the show. Can we get a huge round of applause for the Butterfly Club for having us here? Jacqueline Fukushinovic! My dearest best friend, David Innes!
Lloyd!
Caleb Garfinkel!
And on filming!
Lofthouse on filming, thank you! To take us out, ladies and gentlemen, Caleb Garfinkel will sing the closing song that was nominated for an Oscar at the 60th Academy Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, he's been Innes.
He's been Lloyd.
We've been Innes Lloyd. Good night.
Good night.
Come, my love, and I'll tell you a tale of a boy and girl and their love story, and how he loved her oh so much, and all the charms she did possess. Now this did happen once upon a time, when things were not so complex. Yeah, we worshiped the ground she walked, and when he looked in her eyes, he became obsessed. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. It's as real as the feelings I feel. Their love was stronger than the powers so dark a prince could have within his keeping. His spells to weave and steal our hearts, but within her breast, but only sleeping. My love is like a storybook story, and it's as real as the feelings I feel. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. It's as real as the feelings I feel. He said, don't you know I love you so much, and lay my heart at the foot of your dress. She said, don't you know the storybook loves always have a happy ending. Then he swooped her up just like a book, and on his stallion they rode away. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. It's as real as the feelings I feel.
Oh, my ovaries.
Caleb Garfinkel! Thank you very much. Good night.